not having eating at home, making on a semi-regular basis, making it a kitchen where you can actually cook with your children. And some of the book we have for people who aren't overly handy in the kitchen. We have very basic recipes that you can do with your kids. And, that's a lot about bonding in a family, is time spent in the kitchen. That's where a lot of conversations happen. That's where you can find out a lot about their lives. So really just trying to do as much as possible to integrate them into that home. And frankly, very soon afterwards, they start realizing that they have two very established homes.
Mm-hmm. And I am a child of a divorced family, so I understand this as well. And one of the most difficult things to deal with is the holiday season and how to split that up and what to do for the holidays itself. So, what is your advice for the times like that where it can be very stressful, lots of family time spent together, but still split up?
This is where the advice we spoke about earlier, where you really have to have a working relationship with your ex. I often kind of joke that they say when you get married that it's till death do you part, but really what people need to remember is when they get divorced, if they have kids, it's still till death do you part. Having a working relationship with your ex will allow your children to go through the holidays and allow you a much easier time through the holidays. And so, typically what we recommend is if one person having Christmas Eve one year, one person having Christmas Day. Believe it or not, there's actually some families, and throughout the book, by the way, we interviewed over 50 single fathers from around the country, and kind of got stories, got what we call tips for the trenches, which is different parts of the book that have kind of ideas and thoughts that they've experienced, because we didn't want to make this all about essentially my experience. We wanted to make it kind of a more global experience for men in general. And one of the things that we actually got from several fathers is they got to a point with their ex where actually the two families got along very well. One got remarried to somebody else, one got remarried to somebody else, and actually the four of them, for the kids' sake, would actually do a lot of holidays together, and it didn't bother anyone. So, that's obviously, in a lot of situations I talk to people and they're like, wow, that's way too far out there for me to ever think about with the relationship I have with my ex. But just talking to the person and trying to say, look, you're going to have Christmas Eve, I'm going to have Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, we're going to flip every year, however you want to do it, but doing it in a way that really makes the kids comfortable and doesn't make it an adversarial type of event. I think that's where a lot of the stress comes on the holidays, is where there's an adversarial or almost a guilt feeling to the kids is, oh, you're going to your mother's. Okay, that's great. What am I going to do? And again, you've got to be an adult when you're a divorced parent. You can't let that kind of stuff seep into the kids.
Yeah. I think what you've said, the most important thing is just to be flexible. I think that's the easiest way to transition and all. And before we run out of time today, where can people find your book?
The book's available on Amazon.com. Again, it's called The Complete Single Father. It's also available in most of the major bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Borders. And then we also have a website called thecompletesinglefather.com where you can actually email me individual questions and advice. We have a monthly newsletter, etc.
Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on or talk about before we end the show?
I think just the importance that you really have to think of your kids. We have that throughout the book, a saying, TOYK, which is think of your kids. And I think too often when it comes to divorce, that the two involved in the divorce don't think about the hardest people hit by it, which are the kids. And I think you've always got to make decisions that are based on the best interests of your children, which sometimes isn't necessarily in concert with the best, what you feel at the time.
All right. Thanks for joining us today and kind of taking time out of your schedule to discuss your book and discuss some advice, especially from the perspective of actually going through it yourself. So once again, your website is thecompletesinglefather.com. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you again for joining us. And
thank you very much.
Yes, and this is Stephanie McCracken for another edition of Divorce Today on DadsDivorce.com.